Hello and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at day 5 of our 12-day review of 4th grade mathematics. As always, we are looking at the 2017 release STAR test. We're kind of using that to walk through all things 4th grade math. So today we're looking at two problems, both dealing with multiplication. So students have been learning the foundations of multiplication since 2nd grade, learned how to do 2-digit by 1-digit multiplication in 3rd grade, and in 4th grade, we kind of branch off. We go into two different directions. The first thing we're going to look at today in 4th grade multiplication is what happens when you multiply by 10 or multiply by 100, and how can we do that extremely quickly. So we have our problem here. There's 45 boxes, and each box holds 100 lines. So really what we're looking at here is we're looking at 45 boxes times 100. Now, there's multiple ways we can do that. We can add up the number 45 100 times. We can add up the number 100 45 times. That's a commutative property. The commutative property tells us that you can do the multiplication in any order. And we know that multiplication can be viewed as repeated addition. And so that's why you could kind of add it up multiple times. But neither of those are going to be really simple. So what we want to look at here is, first let's look at the long one. Let's say we flip it to 100 times 45. We've already learned how to do 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication. If not, we can kind of use partial products. That might help us. So first let's look at this 5 times the 100. So 5 times 100 is going to be 500. That makes sense. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. And next we're going to look at this 40, and that's going to be times 100. Now I said 40 because that 4 is in the tens place. So that 4 is not a 4, it's really worth 40 because it's in the tens place. So that's why we always put a 0 in the ones place of the second row, just to recognize that we're starting in our tens place right here. So now I've got 4 times 100 if we just look at it without that 0, and that's just going to be 400. So those two are pretty simple. 4 times 100, 5 times 100 added up, and guess what? You get 4,500. Now hopefully most of you were able to recognize that immediately because there is a trick. So let's take a look at it. If you were to take 2 times 10, well, that's 10 plus 10, that's 20. So look what 2 times 10 is. 2 times 10 is you take the digit, you put it back over here, and you add the number of zeros that you have. So I've got 1 0. So 2 times 10 is 2 with a 0. If I were to do 2 times 100, it'd be the same thing. 2 times, well, I'm going to take that 1, that's 2, and then I'm going to add 2 zeros. 2 times 100 is 200. And so we could do the same thing with this 45 times 100. We're going to take our 45 times that 1. Well, that's simple. That's 45. How many zeros are we going to add? 1, 2. So one thing we need to know is that if you multiply something by 10, you just add a 0. I'll put a 0 right there. And if you multiply something by 100, you simply take that number and then you add 2 zeros. So multiplying by 10 and 100 is really, really simple. If you just think of it as adding 1 0 for a 10 and 2 zeros for 100. That's how you can get to it really quickly. So we only have 2 problems today. Our second one is going to be the other type of multiplication we really focus on in 4th grade, and that's 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication. So there are 27 teams in a hockey league. There are 16 players on each team. How many players are in the hockey league? So this is going to be our 27 times 16. Now, I'm going to do this side by side 2 different ways. I'm going to show you the standard algorithm on the left, and I'm going to show you what we call partial products over on the right, and both of them work. One of them might be a little bit quicker, but if you prefer one over the other, it will get you the same answer. So we always look at this ones digit in the bottom number, and we multiply it by both of those digits separately. So when we're looking at the standard algorithm, we're going to say 7 times 6. Well, that's 42. And so we're going to put the 2 down in the ones place, but 42, that's 2 digits, and it can't fit into just the one place value we're going into. So we carry that 4, because that 4 is 4 tens, and this 2 is in the tens place, so that's why we're going to bring it over there. If you want to do it over here, the partial products, you just look at each one individually. So 7 times 6 is 42, but you can write both of them down. On the standard algorithm, you would then multiply your 6 times the tens digit of the top number. So 6 times 2 is 12. Now we have to add this 4 back in because we brought that over from the 42. So 6 times 2 is 12, and then we plus 4. So that's the difficult part. We have to multiply first, 6 times 2, and then you plus anything that you carried over. So that is going to be 16. So now basically what we've done is we've done 27 times 6, and we made that as 162. And then we just kind of cross that out just to make sure we don't get confused. Here, we're going to realize that this 6 times 2 is 12, but this 2 is really in the tens place. So it's going to be 12 with a 0. Remember what we just learned about multiplying anything by a multiple of 0. 6 times 2 is 12, so 6 times 20 is 120. I'll write the numbers down on the side. 6 times 7, 6 times 20. Now if you add up your 42 and 120, guess what you're going to get? 162. So this box right here equals this. I just did it in 2 rows rather than 1. Now we go to our second row, and this can be a little bit easier because as you can see, we have a 1. Now, second row in standard algorithm, we always start with a 0 in the ones place because this 1 is actually a 10 because it's in the tens place. So we're going to say 1 times 7 is going to be 7, nothing to carry over. In this case, we're going to do 10 times 7, and that's going to be 70, simply because we remember it's the 10 times the 7, that's 1 is in the tens place. And then finally we've got this 1 times 2, and that's going to be just 2. Nothing fancy about that. And then you add that up, and you're going to get 2, you're going to get 13, you're going to get 432, which looks like H right there. In this case, you would do this. You have to realize this is a 10 and this is a 20. So you've got 10 times 20. Remember, anything times 10 is you take that number and write a 0 at the end. So even if that number ends with a 0, it's going to be 200. And so if you take a look at this box right here, the 200 and the 70, well, that's your 270 right there. So your partial products, your standard algorithm, they both get you the same answer. This creates 2 rows to add up. This simply creates 4 rows to add up. The thing that's nice about the partial products is none of this carrying that you have to remember. You simply can just multiply everything separately as long as you know what each of these numbers are worth here. Remember, these numbers that I'm underlining right here are in the tens place. So this is going to be 6, that's going to be 3, and that's 432. So whether you use the standard algorithm, whether you use partial products, 27 times 16 is going to be 432. The answer is H. So that's it for today's work. If you would like to see what happens next, go to aarondaffern.com and check out the post for day 6 of our 4th grade math review.